Today on the Topping Show, Bud Light make it count tweet. Well, he actually ends up having a negative score. Chris Christie drops out in his final words are to curse and trash Donald Trump. Hertz to sell about 1/3 of their EV fleet in order to replace them with gas-powered vehicles. And Dodge Ram trucks are being recalled thanks to the EPA. All of that much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of January, so if you click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the Going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Hertz to sell about 1/3 of their EV fleet in order to replace them with good old reliable internal combustion engine, aka gas-powered vehicles. Now this comes thanks to their regulatory filing. We found that they were selling approximately 20,000 of their electric vehicles, which equates to about 1/3 of their EV fleet. And again, they're going to replace them with gas-powered vehicles. Now, when asked for comment, they blamed that it was weak demand and high repair cost for the shift in strategy. That's why they decided to sell those, which is kind of hilarious when you think most people, when they talk about electric cars, they claim they have no maintenance and they're just reliable as all. They're great because you don't have to replace the oil. Ooh. Well, yes, but as a wise man once said, there's no such thing as solutions, only trade-offs. Yes, you don't have to change your oil because there's not an internal combustion engine in that regard, but there's still hundreds of thousands of components. And of course, you have the issues with range anxiety. You have issues of downtime, having to sit and wait for that stupid thing to charge. As opposed to a gas vehicle, you go to a gas pump, refill in sub a minute, depending on the size of your gas tank. Now, in terms of, they also note that higher depreciation costs after Tesla cut prices and slowing EV sales also factor in Hertz's decision. The CEO, Steven Storer, said, quote, "We may have been ahead of ourselves," unquote. And they said Hertz move to slash its EV reverses the company's announcement in 2021 when it said it would purchase 100,000 Tesla vehicles, which, yeah, that didn't work out too well now, did it? It's one of those instances where, again, the consumer demand just isn't there. The rate of EV adoption is decreasing. There are more sales, but the adoption rate is decreasing. The largest growing category in the automotive community is still, well, now it's the hybrid technologies, which, again, they're not that reliable, not great long term, because again, you have that ginormous depreciable asset known as the battery, which is quite literally, well, the results are explosive, pun moderately intended, but one of those instances where it's such a high cost to replace that thing, it basically makes the car worthless when the battery goes bad. That might not always be the case because of battery technology evolutions. There's a lot of fascinating engineering going on with the sodium-based batteries. There very well might be a point at which there's no longer the bottleneck in not just recharging the vehicle, but also the maintenance, the cost of ownership. But right now, that's what makes them so unattractive for a lot of people is when you want to spend just as much, or actually more, for electric vehicle, where if that goes bad, the main component of the vehicle goes bad, it's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to replace the battery. Now, juxtapose that with an internal combustion engine, which obviously, my preference, every vehicle by default should have 3 pedals and a manual transmission. It's the most fun you'll ever have, bar none. If my car goes bad with me just having a little Honda Civic Si, which I do admire Honda, it only comes with a stick shift. Again, the best default, it should be for everything. Well, if that engine goes bad, which statistically speaking is very unlikely since it's good Japanese engineering and manufacturing, but if it does go bad, you can go to a salvage yard and you can get an internal combustion engine replacement for most vehicles for a couple hundred, maybe 600, 800, a couple $1,000s. Now, granted, if you blow an engine on a vintage 2002 Lamborghini, yeah, you're going to have to spend 35, 40. Yeah, of course, there's always outliers to every situation. But for most consumer vehicles, the average ones, that's a pretty good fix. As opposed to if the battery goes bad, you're spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 plus to replace it. Not only that, you have one source for that battery and one source for repairs, which is another detriment to the technology. It's just like a smartphone. You don't really own it. They control it completely. So to me, in terms of doing a rental fleet, there are the upsides of EV technologies in terms of it makes it easier to track the vehicles. You can actually control the vehicles remotely with all the new stuff they're putting out. So, I mean, Ford in 2023, they filed a patent so they could actually repo their vehicle remotely, which, again, those are, well, I would consider them upside personally, but for the industry, a lot of them see them as upsides, and fleet managers would probably like that. So maybe in the future, but again, the consumer adoption just isn't there. And I can't suspect we'll probably see this trend more and more where they're going to hybrids instead. But especially for rentals, you just want to get in. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about range anxiety. You don't want to have to worry about charging it for 5, 10, 20 hours, whatever it is for some of these. Again, there's a lot of variables. You might not always have a supercharger by you. You might just have a standard, entry level one. So it'll be interesting to see. Let me know. Would you ever rent? I'm trying to think of the last time I actually had to rent a vehicle. When was the last time? Was it remote sale? Was it when I was at Aruba Networks for a remote trip in Iowa? I think it may have been it. And again, at that time, I think it was a Ford Escape, which is the fancy term we use for when we call the pejoratively the Ford Escape, which, again, you just put gas in it, you drive. Really, it's kind of the standard procedure. You don't have to take a whole tutorial about how this special electronic vehicle has all these nuances and all these special things to it. No, it's plug and play without the plug. Pun not really intended. So let me know in the comments, would you ever rent an electric vehicle? Why or why not? And then if you had your preference, what would you rather rent? A good old, maybe a muscle car with 3 pedals, as all vehicles should have by default, or just, electric vehicle? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in. Again, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of January. So click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better. Also, a thumbs up, great way to help with the YouTube algorithm, get sure the video gets shared more and more. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.